What's up, everybody? John Lamberton here. Welcome to the podcast. And today I'm speaking with Shane Parish. And Shane is a guitarist who's based in North Carolina. He's probably most well known for his work with the band Alushatistas. And he also has a pretty big discography playing solo guitar, some really interesting music on acoustic guitar. And I particularly suggest checking out his Autodidact album, which is an exploration of various prepared guitar playing methods. And I was really excited to speak with Shane today because I think that the contemporary guitar scene is kind of uninteresting and a little bit stale. And Shane embodies both a very modernist attitude about playing, and I describe him in the interview as an avant-garde guitarist, but he also has a great reverence for the history and the lineage of the instrument and sort of all the cultural accumulation that comes along with it. So it was really cool to mind meld with him and hear some stories about playing music. And so please enjoy our conversation. Thanks.
All right, cool. So, Shane, basically like the traditional first question on this podcast that I start with is just how does coffee fit into your life? Do you drink it at all? How often do you drink it? If you do, just how does coffee fit into your sort of day-to-day life?
Okay. You put me right at ease with that question. I just want to, that's a good icebreaker. It fits in. I drink probably half a pot of coffee a day, sometimes more. I used to drink a lot more, and then I kind of started doing it like kind of trying to cut off around 2 or 3 in the afternoon, because there were points, long stretches where it would just be like all day, every day into the night, and then I would I started getting like eye twitches and shit, and I was just kind of like needing so now I'm a little more disciplined about it, but it's still like a daily occurrence. So it fits in usually after I do like some light yoga or something, and then I make a pot of coffee in the midst of like a morning practice routine, and then I put butter in it.
Okay, cool.
And I have a big cup that I make first. That's like kind of larger cup, and then I have a smaller cup a little bit later, usually about half that amount.
Just butter? Do you like blend it up or anything?
So I blend it up. Usually put like some proteins in there or something. Right now I'm low on some ingredients, but ideally, I'll put some like cacao in there and like a little cinnamon and some. I was doing this like vegetable protein stuff for a minute, but my wife gets those the blue container of the peptide, protein ground bones or something.
I guess collagen stuff, yeah.
Collagen, yeah, and then and that goes, So that's my first cup is like is rich, and then I don't do that for the second one though, because that would be like kind of, I don't know, too much. But the first one is like a cocktail of sorts, and then the second one's kind of just a watered or a coffee down version of that. I try to like keep some of the sediment for the follow-up coffee so that there's a little bit of that happening. But
gotcha.
So that's where it's at now. I mean, it's that's been steady for a while, but that's kind of where it's been for the last probably year or so.
Nice. The past like few times I've asked this question, I've gotten some like kind of bad answers, and this is definitely one of the better ones. So
oh, good.
I told myself that if you had some sort of like bad answer, I was just gonna try to like stick on it and push it. But like this is a great answer. I'm glad you're a concoction guy.
Oh, good. Yeah.
So I also hear that you have a sort of tradition of pancake making.
Yeah. Pancakes happen a couple times a week usually, or they'll happen and then there's enough left over for another day or two. Yeah, and so I'm into the pancake making. You know what it is? Like I think I have this childhood memory of like like one of my good childhood memories is like going to a neighbor's house like one time and the mom making pancakes or something, because I don't think I ever had pancakes as a kid. But anyway, and so I think I'm just like recreating this like awesome pancake morning I had once, and but I just do it every, all the time, like twice a week. Then my daughter, she gets into it. That involves like bananas usually, and I've started to do it from scratch, which I'm proud of, because I was kind of using a mix for a while. And I know it's not that big a deal because you could just look anything up on the internet. I don't know what, but I was like, but now I'm doing a little buckwheat mix, all-purpose flour. Not vegan, but no dairy. I'm non-dairy, since we're talking about generally dietary issues right now, because I discovered that I think I figured out on my own that this like rash I was getting on my face forever was actually being caused by dairy. So, but I do the butter and that's fine. So I don't know. It's just no milk.
Interesting.
Anyway, but yeah, so I use soy milk in the pancakes and then the grass-fed butter in the coffee. And I just don't do cheese or milk anymore, which is kind of sad, but there's a lot of good substitutes. Yeah.
Yeah, I am a vegan myself, and
Okay.
so I don't actually know about how dairy stuff works, but I like to be aware of, stuff like the bulletproof coffee and all that, just because it's really interesting.
Yeah.
Cool, man. Well, yeah, let's dive into some music stuff. So I'm curious, to give you a sense of me, I'm like a guitarist and improviser and composer, but I was thinking about how that's kind of like a common label, like guitarist, improviser, composer, whatever, and I'm wondering if your priority of those things is more guitarist, improviser, composer, while mine is like composer, improviser, guitarist. Is that a fair assessment? Like, do you feel like guitar is more important than composing to you? Not like more important, but I mean.
No.
Is it all the same thing to you?
No. I think I have I think of the guitar as like an obstacle course to creativity. That's like kind of cumbersome, sort of barrier to expression. And that can be like compositionally or through improvisation. And I think maybe why you're asking me this is maybe it comes across, and it would be true, that like I do have an affinity for like the history of guitar, and I'm interested in like its applications. Like, I like playing Spanish Baroque stuff, and I like playing, country blues, like Piedmont blues or Mississippi John Hurt tunes, and classical stuff, or at least studying and playing it as best as I can. I enjoy that as like these guitaristic things, but I'm also like highly interested in like how to deal with like music, like the universe of music on the instrument, and in that sense the guitar becomes like a really difficult medium for expression, because there are these guitaristic things that create like a barrier to like accessing an idea. Does that make sense? Shapes on the guitar, like the way that it's tuned, like all these things are kind of limit what you can do or conceive of, and so I don't know but that's interesting to me, and I think a lot about it, like how to then have like total freedom as an improviser. That means I have to do a lot of technical work, right? Unless I don't give a shit about that and I want to be like non-idiomatic, and I don't, but that's fine. Like I'm fine with that. Like I mean I'll go there, but it's not like the main drive of what I'm interested in. I think it's important, but yeah. So it all kind of feeds into each other. Maybe it is all one thing. It's a tough question, because I don't really. I want to be like a composer first in my mind. I don't know if I am though, So maybe that's why I'm kind of like hemming and hawing about it,
Yeah, in checking out your playing, I just felt like there was such a sort of like organic, expressive quality that didn't seem like it was totally rooted in like something that was predetermined and like designed. It just seemed a lot more spontaneous. But of course, everybody says improvisation is spontaneous composition and all this. But I mean, the other thing it makes me think of is like, if you think about like just like from bottom to top, like E, G, B, C on guitar, that's a fucking difficult chord to stretch out. And on piano it's just like ding. And
Right.
so like there's
Yeah.
people can't really appreciate how the guitar has these, yeah, like you said, obstacle courses. Cool, man. So what was your education like as a guitarist?
I mean, I'm largely self-taught. I started playing when I was 14 years old, and really just immediately started just kind of composing and experimenting. I mean, writing songs with friends and stuff, like, and just moving, learning some basic chords on my own and from other kids, and then kind of just moving fingers around and finding things that sounded cool in like a sort of, exploratory way. Um, and, um, and then I started trying to do some, self-teaching, like getting some books and stuff. I don't really feel like, I don't know. I didn't have a whole lot of discipline early on though. So it was a lot of experimenting and like writing and just like poor technique or whatever, which that's no judgment. I don't care about, like, I'm not a snob about it. It was fine. It was like, it did what it needed to at the time. But understanding now like optimum technique and like mechanics and things is kind of interesting to look back on how that stuff kind of all happened. But I did do a little bit of college, but I never finished a minor in music. So I took some jazz in college and some theory, and I took like maybe 5 or 6 guitar lessons from a guitarist that teaches at Berkeley named Freddie Bryant, who happens to like come through Asheville because his daughters live here, and he's and I bring him up even though he only gave me like half a dozen lessons, because those were the most important guitar lessons that I got in terms of somebody of like a guru status, like someone I just hadn't had that kind of relationship where someone could like look at my hands and observe these things that served me for the rest of my life and made me a better teacher, and like all the, just like kind of deep knowledge, and that was really helpful and sent me on my way, not just physically, technically, but also conceptually, just like but yeah, basically self-taught though, like taking gigs and not being able to hang on them, and then like having a woodshed like crazy to play the gig, taking like my first classical gig. I've never done a classical gig. I've only been playing classical for like 12 years, and I've been playing guitar for almost 30, but then I just took those gigs and struggled through them, and that's been like just kind of taking jazz gigs and not being able to hang, and like just trying to, I mean, as far as that kind of like working musician stuff, trying to like, just starting to teach, and then, so really just kind of learning on the streets a lot, but also deep diving, reading like books and like being pretty, having sort of a monastic like commitment as I got older towards like really enjoying a routine and discipline, and like just need those couple hours, and like learn just more and more and more, because it's just endless. So but yeah, that's I think summarizes it. Yeah.
Earlier when you were referring to guitar versus like all of music up here, it makes me think about like my education, which was I went to school for studio jazz guitar, whatever that means, and it was separate from the rest of the jazz studies department, which meant like kind of like, let's teach you how to do a few things that we think might make you money down the line, but it really killed a lot of my sort of like intrinsic motivations and stuff like that. So like I don't know, I feel like I was intrigued to see your approach that seems like very studied, but not in like a regimented way that like it doesn't seem like you've had the life pulled out of you musically.
I hear that. I can relate to that, like in that, or understand that, because my wife went to like got her MFA, and like everybody who goes through an art department has that experience of like, I don't want to do art anymore, when it's over. And so yeah, I think I definitely avoided those pitfalls. Like I'm still like, it's like a joy to do a transcription, I'm like, it's like, I don't know. It's so like, I feel like I do this shit that people are doing in college now that are so much younger than me. But it's just like, cause I enjoy doing that work and teaching it, and I did a gig in Miami like 5 or 6 years ago, or maybe more. But and I was doing like a solo acoustic thing. It was like my first show down there, which is funny because I like grew up in South Florida, and like I never played on there just because it's all the way down there. You know, it's just hard to get to. My whole family came, and it was, but the front row was like, it was like 4 like guitar professors, and I didn't know that like during my set, which was at the time very good because I would have probably been like way more nervous about it. And but they really enjoyed the show or whatever. And I was, but I remember talking to this guy. He was like, "You're really lucky you didn't go to school for like classical guitar because you would have you would have been so busy like learning like the Chaconne or whatever by Bach, you know, and to the point where you just like would the enjoyment that you like seem to have just doing this stuff is, you know, would have been, yeah, like sucked out of you, like you were saying." And it was I was like, oh, okay, well, that's good. All those times where I think should I go back to school for music? Like which I never did, but I guess I still could. But it comes up now and then. I'm like, should I go back to school? Because I teach privately. I'm like, should I become a professor or something? But I don't know if I will. I don't know. I like teaching privately.
Yeah, that sounds like it would be more interesting. So in terms of like being somebody that does guitar that's like pretty avant-garde, although like you do have like this obvious respect for the history of guitar, I'm curious what that looks like sort of on a practical level, like from guitarist to guitarist, like on a career level. Like, you know, you teach lessons, you make records. What else goes into like being an avant-garde guitarist as a career?
Well, I used to tour also. Yeah, and I guess like it's strange because like I guess I'm sort of stumped by the term avant-garde guitarist. Do you know what I mean? If I'm perfectly honest, you know, because but I get that. It's so funny because I think, oh, I'm doing all this like studious work, but then I look at the records I put out this year and they're like totally out there, you know. And so I guess like there's no other way to describe them, you know. Yeah. And
I mean, I don't mean to reduce you to an avant-garde.
No, I didn't. Oh yeah, no, I didn't feel that. But it's interesting because I was talking to a friend of mine where I'm like, I don't know if I don't even like know if I would like, because I wouldn't plant my flag there, but then I wouldn't plant my flag anywhere, and then that's like this weird loneliness, that like existential thing that I sometimes deal with, you know. But I think like a lot of maybe what you're describing is like a lot of, you know, associating with other musicians, right? Like coming into contact with people who take their instrument like really seriously and communicating with them, you know. And I think about the people that I've improvised with that are, you know, would, you know, make avant-garde music, like, you know, Jacob Wick or Wendy Eisenberg or you know, Tatsuya Nakatani, you know, like you know, I think there's a point at which we meet where we're not really going to, and there's a much longer list than that, but we're going to get together and play. We're not going to really work within like some trad context, you know. We're not playing jazz, we're not playing tunes, we're not. So I think that there's that kind of like openness and listening to what other people are doing, and kind of being able to like form those relationships and make music together. That yeah, I don't know. Does that feel like an answer? I don't know.
I think so, yeah. So I mean, do you feel like most of it then is just like being in a network of like other people that are doing creative stuff? Like you weren't thinking about it in terms of like I gotta make my money, like gotta make, you know, guitar records to sell. Like you weren't thinking about it like that. It seems like. No,
yeah, I'm not thinking about it like that. I mean, I do think about like how am I going to make money, but it's and that, I mean, you know, my lessons, you know, teaching studios is been really consistent for over 10 years, and, you know, very knock on wood. I mean, like I survived the pandemic so far, you know, like it's like moved online and actually expanded and taken on more advanced students in other states and cities and stuff that I you know, and that's been really fortunate. And then, you know, yeah, I used to do a lot of restaurant gigs and stuff around town, and I would do tour dates, but I don't, you know, like record sales are very helpful, but they're definitely like a smaller stream for me than like work, you know, like, right, you know, at this moment. I mean, that'd be nice if that the balance could change someday. I wouldn't complain, but, you know, also I kind of reduced my own touring schedule when I had a daughter. You know, she's 5.5, and when she was born, I just didn't really want to be out playing free jazz gigs. I mean, you know, like, because I mean, I've done gigs like where, yeah, like go to Europe and like get paid pretty well to play really out music for very few people, and I'd much rather be at home being a father than doing that. You know, like, I mean, as fun as that was, it was incredible, and I'm sure I would do it again, but I just can't. That I really cut back on that stuff. I was like traveling like 3.5 months out of the year, and then I just reduced it to like 2 weeks, 3 weeks spread out across the year when she came around. Because so, but I have a lot of pans in the fire, you know. Like I'm constantly like, I have a lot of slow burn projects that they're years long, like effort to come into fruition. Not only because they're difficult or the effort of them, but because they require time and space to ferment, like where I'm not working on them is what I'm coming to realize, like that. And then when I come back to them, I'm like, yes, now this feels like it makes sense. And so I'm kind of, I don't know, some of those things are starting to move forward now, but yeah, I'm really driven by the music, like, though, primarily, and always have been. Like, I remember being like a teenager and like we were like trying out a keyboardist for our band or whatever, and I was like, look, we're not just trying to get girls and blah, 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 you know, and this guy looked at me like, that's what I'm trying to do, man. I was like, we're serious about this music. I didn't know what the hell I was talking, you know, like musically, like it's funny to think about because I couldn't really play, but I was just trying to like, you know, be this militant, like the music is first and foremost. And it's funny because like some people, a friend of mine has a joke. He's just like, you know, it's a band, man. It's not about the music, you know. It's like, but that is still like the primary motivator, you know, that just kind of draws me. Yeah.
To sort of give you a sense of why I asked this type of question, and also to link it back to coffee. You know, after music school, I basically like just went into the coffee industry, and I was like, I'm not going to try to make money doing music because I'll like regret it. And then I, you know, now sort of regret not going hard into music. But then I see some other musicians whose names I won't name who just seem to have this like underlying resentment that's so palpable when they talk about like music careers. And it's sad because they're like incredible musicians who just like, they will like, you know, get snippy at fans because like of Spotify or this or that. And it's like, well, like you have to sort of adapt to this new age of the music industry. And I don't really know how to do that, but like you seem to have like found your niche as somebody that's like doing something that's, you know, not aimed at the mainstream at all. So I guess that's where I'm coming from.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's interesting. You know, it's a really fraught business, and a friend of mine, my friend Alec, put that word to it, and I was like, yes, that encapsulates a lot of the energy, and I really try to avoid that kind of energy at all costs. And I could, you know, I've had whatever, like disappointments or, you know, things that didn't like, you know, went or just didn't really take off or didn't, you know, it's like, or like a lot of like, there's a lot of like kind of false friendships that arise and like, and just like get, you know, there's a lot of like insider dealing and just like the way money, you know, works to promote music and all this. And you could really get caught up in just being like, why am I not getting more attention? Why am I being like, you know, I heard someone said recently about like I heard the word attention economy for the first time like a week ago, like twice in 24-hour period, and I was like so like it like hurt my soul in this way. And but it makes sense. I don't know. I'm to be totally naive. Like obviously, like I'm participating in that in some way, and like and I think also like, but it was like that just bums me the fuck out, man. You know, like honestly, like because here I want to be I just want to like be nerding out about music, like I like that's why I'm here. And I think that like that, and then that enthusiasm has been met with just like not, you know, sometimes it's, you know, it's met with enthusiasm, but sometimes a lot of times it's met with like this weird insecurity and kind of just like just caginess, you know, like if you're just like I'm still stoked about music. I don't the business of it is bullshit, and it's just like I sound like Fiona Apple at the MTV Music Awards. Man, this is all bullshit, man. Just go turn off your TV, man. You know, but you know, I don't know. I try to keep a positive outlook about it and not really focus on kind of whatever is not real about it. Because like what's real about it is like this infinity, you know. I mean, it's just like you can't even. It's beyond some marketplace, you know, like or any kind of social psychodrama, you know, like so, or you know, and I'm not really, and so I try to like avoid that if I can, and hopefully even role model like you know, just like an alternative, you know, by you know, not to be paternalistic or anything, but you know, just kind of like let's just be stoked about this stuff, you know, because life is short, you know. I'm sorry that it's like there's a, you know, I wish I could be the village musician who is not getting paid anything to do the things that I do, you know, and that would I would, you know, that'd be nice, but we screwed this whole world up. Anyway, go ahead.
The people that I'm, you know, sort of talking about with this palpable resentment, you know, on the other hand, like I feel like I clearly noticed your positive vibes, like just from seeing you on Twitter. So, you know, that's part of why I reached out to you. But, I'm not usually like a total guitar-y like shop talk guy, but I wanted to do like a sort of segment of like guitar hero hot takes, and just I was thinking I could throw some guitarists at you. You don't have to like say I don't like that guy or anything. You can just pass if you feel like it. But if you but you know, if you are like no, more like this guy, like I was just thinking we should talk some guitarists. So the first one I wanted to mention is Ben Monder. Does he mean anything to you? Are you familiar with his music?
Yeah, I mean he's phenomenal. And I'm underexposed. Did you interview him?
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw that. You sent me a clip of that. Yeah, I mean he's just fantastic and a super nice guy. I feel like I'm like underexposed to his like overall like body of work. I saw him perform with a singer.
Theo Buckman.
Yes, and in Asheville, and that was really great. And that was the only time I've seen him perform. And then I spoke with him after the show, and we kind of like talked a little bit. But I was really taken by his playing, and I could tell that I shared some interests with him. I could see like some. I'm assuming I could see some like Villalobos stuff in there, you know, and maybe like just like in some of the voicings and technique he's using. But yeah, he's just great. Super nice guy. I should listen to more of his music. Isn't he also on that David Bowie record?
Yeah, on the
Star. Yeah, which just fantastic. Yeah, I mean that's, you know, really, I mean, just stands out too, right? So yeah, super. That's my hot take. Yeah.
He's like, I've often referred to him as my favorite guitarist, or I'll just like sort of like be hyperbolic and call him the best guitarist. But like, you know, the legend goes that basically when I was in music school and I was like not enjoying myself, I got an email from him, and like the single email was more like it gave me a lot more to work with than my entire time in school. And so I'm still working on that stuff. Who would you say is like your Ben Monder, if he's like my guitar idol? Who's your main dude? Bullshit question and impossible to answer, but
okay. Man, you know,
no wrong answers.
Yeah, there's no wrong answers. Let me think. Okay, I'm just gonna say Mark Rebo, and I think like because it's not a real easy to answer that question.
Hmm.
But I'm gonna say him because I really, was taken by his playing when I was whatever, however old I was in like the late '90s when I started checking his stuff out, and this kind of like punk kind of aesthetic of it, or just this attitude in the playing, and then and I loved all the stuff with Zorn and Prestigious Cubanos, and and I and then went to his workshop of his, and I don't know, he kind of just like I was like really into him at a certain point in like the late '90s, early 2000s, and then kind of just branched off. I mean, there's a lot of fish in the sea, so listen to other music, but then like came back around to you know, crossing paths with him, and it just kind of like kind of verified what a great sort of advocate for the guitar, and the guitar as like as a historical instrument, as an expression of like in all these different genres and cultures, and just I don't know, it seemed as a conduit for the human spirit in history, I think is something. And I think so that was cool to have that feeling too, to like meet like a hero from when you're younger too, and he wrote some nice things about the record I did on Sadiq, and that was like, whoa, my God, and then we did a show, and it was like, he's super nice and whatever. And I don't know him that well, but but just crossing paths like professionally was super weird. But like it was always like just I think that he like carries the torch well, and it maintains like a good like aesthetic, that I think is like consistently been strong. And yeah, so but now I'll talk about John McLaughlin. But I don't know. I think so. And he kind of, in a way, with the Rebo thing, is that he kind of like the way I like to play like a jazz tune or something. Like I don't really want to take a solo on a jazz tune,
Right.
necessarily. I want to interpret the tune and maybe spin some variations on it and play it the way the guitar wants to play it, and like voice it in a way that the guitar is going to resonate. And I'm not as interested in hearing myself anyway, like blow over the changes, I'm not like, that's not necessarily my thing. So I don't know. I think that, and he does do that. I don't know, but I just think that kind of like putting your own spin on like an arrangement, and like kind of like letting it just do its thing. I think letting it breathe.
I've never really checked out Mark Rebo that deeply. For somebody who's like a Maunder head, what would you suggest in his discography? As a starting point, maybe.
Yeah. There's a good variety of stuff. So I mean, I really like some of the records from the '90s, like Requiem for What's His Name. Is a really really pretty one, and really dark. And stark. And like it's like minimalist, I mean, it's like in a lot of ways almost the opposite of like the Maunder kind of thing, what I mean, in terms of like the palette is not as I shouldn't even say anything. I don't know, like nothing is a passing of judgment, but it's not as like a necessarily sophisticated like harmonic jazz palette, what I mean. He's like a punk, and I think he owns that. And I think that's not to say that he's not also a virtuoso and like brings like a sophisticated palette to the table, but we're not talking about like necessarily like lots of substitution changes happening and stuff like that, what I mean. That but yeah, I like that record a lot. I also really like the record The Circle Maker that John Zorn put out. It's like and there's like one of the discs is called Zevulun, and it's like it's a sextet. And I love like his solos on it are like so lyrical. I don't even know, like I haven't listened to it in a while, but like in retrospect, like are they composed? They're just so lyrical that they sound composed, and they very well maybe, but like maybe Zorn composed them. But I just remember thinking, wow, these are just they just have such a melodicism to it, and just like you can just hum them, you know. And I thought that's a really great one. So yeah, I think those are good records.
Cool. I'll throw a few more of these people at you. I mean, you mentioned John McLaughlin real quick. Are you a McLaughlin guy?
Yeah, I mean, I think I like kind of cherry pick like my favorite stuff at this point, like of what I absolutely love from him, which would be like the Shakti live stuff particularly, but also that record, like whatever the Elements something is, you know, is nuts, the studio album. But and then like Intermounting Flame, my Vishnu Orchestra. I've been kind of back into that a lot lately, and like Extrapolation.
Oh, dude, yeah.
That's like really great record. So
I was happy to find that when I was pretty young and like be like, what in the world?
yeah, totally. It's like a Coltrane record for guitar. You know, this is kind of how I remember thinking about it back when I was getting into that. But yeah, I mean, he's just great, and he's like a great sort of another sort of light, you know, in terms of a guiding light, you know, like of like guru status, I think, you know, just encouragement. Like even like there's a lot of stuff I don't get into, you know, there's a lot of that I just, but I mean, I'm trying, because I got into Joni Mitchell a couple of years ago, like 2 years ago, and that was like my gateway into like, okay, maybe I can like deal with some fusion tone a little bit more than I used to be. So like I'm such an asshole. John McLaughlin came to town and played a club here, and all the guitarists said, Shane, you're going to the show, you're going to the show. I'm like, I don't know. I don't really like what he's doing now, blah, blah. It's like, now I feel like an idiot. I'm like, of course I should have gone to that show, but I was just such a a tone snob or something. I couldn't dig it, you know, and like, and sure, it's cheesy as hell, but like still see the guy, you know, like why wouldn't I do that? I don't know. I regret it, but I can grow and become. I'm softening in my old age here, you know. Like I could just like I realized I should have just gone to that show, but anyway, what were we talking about?
Well, another guitarist on the list is Egberto Gismonti, and I saw this video of John McLaughlin playing guitar with Egberto on piano, and it was just so good because Egberto keeps on speeding up and like totally trying to vibe John McLaughlin, and you see John McLaughlin sort of flubbing stuff, and it's like, ooh, this is a YouTube video.
Oh, you guys send this to me, please.
Yeah.
That sounds cool. I am pretty like unfamiliar overall, but I like listened to like a record, I want to say like last year or something, like a couple times, but so I'm not fully like like acquainted with Egberto Gismonti's output, but I remember really digging it, you know, and being like, whoa, this is like incredible, but I can't really speak to it in any kind of educated way, so I need to deep dive that, which is exciting. I love that I don't know about stuff.
I mean, like there's this record that you did with, I think, Charlie Hayden, and on one of the songs he goes on this gnarly like sort of solo thing where he's like plucking behind, you know, and doing like stuff that I feel like I saw you do in some videos, so I think you'd find it really interesting. But
Cool.
Last two guys I'll mention to get your take on are Henry Kaiser, and then I'll proceed.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I mean, he's amazing. I like, again, like, I feel like I should listen to more of his catalog to like give a real answer. We jammed together once a long time ago. I want to say 2007. And that was awesome. And he was like super nice guy, and he totally ripped. And I know he totally rips. And I'm mainly familiar with him through like videos of him playing like on YouTube and like just like totally shredding. So yeah, I mean, excellent, amazing guitar player. What I would need to like get the high points of the discography to like kind of speak more like eloquently about it. Yeah, but really great guitar player for sure.
Well, the last one I'll throw throw at you, which maybe can bring us into like some discussion of like math rocky bandiness, is Ian Williams. He's my sort of go-to math rock guy.
Okay. What band does he play with?
Like Don Caballero.
Oh yeah.
And more recently like Battles, and he had that weird
That's what I
project
thought.
called Storm and Stress.
Yeah, that's right. Okay.
You know,
Yeah,
all the tappy
that's really
stuff.
all the tappy stuff. Super cool stuff. Yeah. I kind of I think I knew that, but I couldn't quite place the name. But yeah, I like all that stuff. I don't know. I don't think I have too much of a hot take on it though. I can't. Yeah. Sorry to let you down, but
That's all good.
but I mean, but it's not because I don't like respect and like think everything he's done is like really cool. I just don't know that I am like fully immersed in that world to know enough, or to like to speak to it in a way that would make sense. I don't know, but yeah, he rips, and I think that those are some strong records, and I think that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I can analyze the style. Should I do that a little bit? Like, I think there's like, yeah, like there's like an interesting, like I immediately think of just kind of like wide intervallic sort of like motifs, like that are polyrhythmic, maybe against what's happening with the rhythm section. I'm pulling this out of the air. Sorry, but like I think, but that's a cool like approach, I think, and yeah, I hope he doesn't watch this. It's like I'm so, but yeah, I don't know, but yeah, total ripper, and yeah.
I bring him up because I've seen Luciatistas referred to as math rock, and I'm not sure if that is something that you identify with, but I guess I'm curious, as somebody who's like very much more in like the bandy world than I am, like if there's a math rock guitarist that resonates with you more, or like if you're just like me,
like me. Well,
Shane Parish.
Yeah, Shane Parish. Well, you know what? I wasn't really like familiar with, I would say Robert Fripp before any, like as like an early influence in that direction, because, and maybe that's like the precursor to a lot of that stuff anyway, in terms of like kind of like angular, like driven guitar rock. Cause I just didn't really, I became familiar with that through like doing Luchatistas, like that was because people would compare the band to things, and I was like, oh, I better go check that out, and like I hadn't heard it at the time of like doing the second record of that, so my taking off point was like, yeah, it was like more like prog rock,
Mm-hmm.
and then I heard the band Ruins, a Japanese band. Do you know them?
I know them a little bit. I haven't done a deep dive or anything.
But like they're bass drums duo, or they were, and that was like this, like, to me, like at the time of starting Luchatistas was like holy shit, okay, this is like prog but like really punk, like but it's insanely tight. It was like Frank Zappa, but like just like brutally like aggressive in this way, and it was really exciting for me. And another band at the time of forming Luchatistas that I heard similarly was a band called Granulana, and that guitar player's name's Chris Troll, and he lives in St. Louis, and he's amazing. And that band, they put out like one record, and it's phenomenal, and it's like, and it was like kind of like grindcore, like through composed rock stuff with Darren Gray on bass and Danny McLean on drums, who passed away. And so when I was like auditioning drummers for Luchatistas, I was playing that record because it had just come out. I was like, because you could find really good musicians, but they tended to like have more of like a funk jam sort of lean, you know what I mean? Because that's like all the really good musicians are going to play like fusion, like jam band stuff, because that, so you can like shred and like played a lot to people and whatever, you know, but so I had a hard time like finding musicians that would like can play like more complicated rhythms but also had this like sense of like heaviness and like darkness, you know, rather than, you know, like a groove that was, you know, that was funk based. So that was the record I would play for people. I'd be like, check this out. It was just like, you know, just like this like really brutal kind of playing. And I think that like also largely like influenced by like horn players, you know, you know, like John Coltrane, not that I'm sound like any of them, but like just like as like a exploratory like icon, you know, like, and so I tended towards, yeah, like Eric Dolphy, Ornette Coleman, like John Coltrane, and thinking I was doing something like that on guitar, you know. I mean, I never really properly learned like that stuff, you know, still learning it, but you know, it was, you know, trying, so I didn't really have like a strong contemporary guitar influence, and maybe that's my bad, I don't know, like I just didn't really have a context for it. And then everyone was comparing the band to Captain Beefheart's Magic Band, and I hadn't heard that when, you know, 2003. I mean, now it's like one of my favorite artists, you know, like, and know the entire discography or whatever, but it's like at the time I didn't really have a reference for it, and that's just ignorance though, I don't know. I mean, but there's also so much music out there. How are you supposed to know? Like, so to this day, people are like, man, it sounds like Primus, you know? And it's like, okay, if that's what you know, then that's what it sounds like, you know, like, or that's the closest thing to it that you've heard, you know? And so, but I think the guitar player from Hello, what's his name? Spencer
I was going to put him on the list, and I was like, don't pull. You know,
no, but he's great. I mean, like, he's great. I think that was also going on around the time of like forming the band, you know, like where it was like there was like this like kind of resurgence or something of like this prog, what I thought was like prog based music, you know, and you know, so that was like I'm talking like early 2000s, right? Early 20-aughts. I think, but I don't know that I necessarily like, you know, I was already like Frank Zappa was my big hero at that point, you know, like I was kind of, I don't know, and I didn't really, that to me, that was like a reference for making like complicated rock music, you know, was like this like composition based rock and roll music. And I never subscribed to like the math rock title. However, I'm fine with it now. Again, that's just me getting older and not giving a shit. Like you know, it's fine because if people are really enthusiastic about music, that's great. I'm enthusiastic about it too, and so I'm fine. Like I'll you know, with that term, it makes sense. But I, you know, it's like I think about like Charles Mingus refusing jazz as a term. Why has it got to be called jazz? You know, it's just music, man. You know, but it's like, but I don't really have those bones to pick or those chips on my shoulder. I don't care, like, call whatever you want, you know, like, and so and I just need to listen to more music so that I know more about it. All I know is I know nothing.
Before I continue asking questions, I should get a sense of how much time you have, because I don't want to keep you all night, but I do have more questions I want to ask you.
I'm fine, man. We can go. Cool. Yeah.
So I checked out your autodidact record, which I thought was really cool, and I have a bunch of sort of like weird questions about that, but also I guess it just made me think about like Ben Munder's approach is very systematic to like arrangements of pitches, but you seem to be applying that same systematic nature to like more expressive qualities and like exploration of timbre, and I thought it was really cool. But I mean, to start, like, when you have these tunings, did you come to those tunings kind of arbitrarily, or like how did you decide on those?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I was like, it was more of a like, yeah, just like kind of like but listening to them as they evolved, you know what I mean? Like kind of when I do like play in like a totally like free context, I'd started to do this. I was playing with this band from Switzerland called Subductus. It was like a sextet. Anyway, we did a few tours together, but it was like all these Swiss guys, and it was all improvised, but there was like a lot of composed like cells. But I start on one of the tours, I just started to like play in like unfamiliar tunings, and like because I felt like trapped in my concepts of the guitar, which were limited. I mean, I guess they're always could be limited, you know, but trying like as soon as you find the key or you find some tonality that works, then suddenly all these things open up to you. And it was like, and I felt like that was like inhibiting my ability to like be spontaneous. And so I started to play in just unfamiliar tunings on the gig every night. And that was, and then I just kind of carried that forward until like when I would be playing, you know, in like a free, like more visceral, like context of improvisation. So yeah, I mean, it's arbitrary, but it's also like I'm listening to it. It's not like, but sometimes I'll be on a gig and I'll just like, okay, here we go. And like, I don't know, because I don't want to know. But then of course on guitar, you'll be on a single string and you're going to find like intervallic leaps and you're going to find melodic possibilities along one string, because that's never going to change, right? No matter, the key will change. But then you take that leap to the next string and it's like, surprise, note. And then you have to work with that, whatever it is, and so that was exciting for me to start doing that, because it just like helped me break out of any kind of concepts or patterns. And then, but yeah, as far as like timbre is concerned, that was a really deep dive for me. Around the time my daughter was born, I spent a lot of time doing really working. I was working with this book by a guitarist named Eduardo Fernandez, who's from Uruguay, and he has this book called Mechanism, Technique, and Learning. And it's a slender volume, but it's a very, very dense. It's like Hegel for a guitar or something. It's like it's really thin, and then you read it and you're like, oh my, like what is, like I have to read this like 10 times, because it's like, it's all about like kinesthetic feel stuff on guitar, and like how to like just repeating like one note, like a chord over and over again, and noticing the activation of muscles and all this kind of stuff. And like I really got like deep into this for like months, because when my daughter was born, I quit playing like dinner gigs and shit, and so suddenly I wasn't having to like juggle like this like 50 song repertoire that I was loosely like, still reading charts on all of it, but like had all this repertoire. I was constantly having to like play and maintain some kind of, set lists for these gigs. And then I just didn't have to do that anymore. I just started teaching more, and that like took over my income. And then I couldn't be home in the evenings. And then I stopped practicing it, and I just started playing sound. And I would just like play one note for like an hour or two, and that was my practice. And I did that for months, and it was like, it really like radically changed how I played the guitar. I consider it like the main turning point in my career and not only like career as a recording and performing artist, but also just as the life of a guitarist. It was like things gelled in a way when I came out of that period of time. Whereas I felt like I was efforting in a lot of different directions, suddenly everything came together, and I felt like in my own expressive way. And it was nice because I was interested in too many styles. I could never like commit to anything. So, but then this was like, suddenly I came out of this just touching the instrument thing. And then it was like, okay, now I can play, and I can just, and and I felt comfortable in having a lot of interest in not being like a master of any of them really. And so, but that's when I kind of like really got into like thinking of timbre as infinite, as an infinite spectrum, the way rhythm and pitch are, or the harmony is, and I think that's ignored a lot. You know, I think that there's a lot of like monolithic tone out there, and that's okay. Maybe I mean, it's just one element of music, so where you could be stronger in another category. You know, I think about like, you know, Victor Wooten's book, The Music Lesson, which is super cheesy, of course, but it's also like got some like deep wisdom in it. And he talks, it's like, what are the elements of music? How many are there? You know, oh, well, maybe there's 100, maybe there's 4, maybe there's like an infinite number of elements. And then it's like, he asks, well, which one's the most important? And it's like, oh, notes. We spend all this time learning about notes, but it's like, notes the most important aspect of music? Like, go listen to like a great like blues musician, like and that has a lot of feeling, you know, is that like they have this other category at a really high level, and maybe not as sophisticated of a harmonic palette, or maybe they do, but like, or you know, just there's a, so like thinking about timbre like that, like as this like infinite spectrum that can, you know, turn the fingers slightly this way, combination nail flesh, like super little shit like that. And I think that like I could see like a jazz snob thinking that that was like not as important as like some, you know, I don't know, like you know, playing like extensions on some substitutions or something, you know, like, you know, but it's like, but it is, it's deep, and it's like, and you get into the subtlety of that, and people respond to it in a subconscious way. I think like you don't realize it, like the notes might be the same, but like you get like subtle fluctuations of timbre throughout, and then you have like an active and alive organism, music as an organism, you know, like the timbre should be constantly fluctuating subtly. And then, so I don't know. Anyway, it's a long answer, but you kind of like you mentioning timbre like that made me think of it. So that recording was kind of just like a deconstruction of the guitar, though, from standard tuning to like further and further applied items and further away from that standard tuning. And it was done in one take, and it was just like that was the concept. And then like, yeah, autodidact, I'm like self-learning that instrument as it evolves, you know, and trying to like be musical with it.
This makes me think of a few different things. One is, I guess, like, you know, I'm totally the substitution guy, by the way, but like hearing your playing makes me really interested in this timbral element. But like it seems like, you know, rhythm and pitch have like a certain regularity, but timbre has this like you know, sort of harder to pin down, I guess, like frequency content to it. Like it's not going to be oscillating like a sine wave or anything like that. It's so much richer and more complicated, and you can't really sum it up like that. So it's just an observation, but I'm also curious, like I think I saw you tweet something about that, like, you know, playing one note or one chord over and over again. And I feel like you said it in terms of meditation. Do you have a meditation practice, or do you say meditation sort of more like loosely in the sense of like practicing guitar in a meditative way, or is there like a contemplative practice?
Yeah, I have a meditation practice, and I've kind of like fallen in and out of it over the years, which I guess as one does. But I've been pretty good about it lately. I've been into this app lately called Waking Up. It's really good, and this guy, it's like guided. So I've been doing that every day for like 20 minutes in the morning. And I've read a lot about, you know, Buddhism and like D.T. Suzuki and like Charlotte Joko Back and John Cage, which is, but I think, so yeah, I mean, it's really important to me. I noticed my, when you fall out of it, that's when I notice like, holy shit, I really need to be doing this, because then when I get back into it, I'm like, oh, that thing was missing. Like I really need to be present and like centered. And so yeah, it is part of my routine, and I try to do it every single day. Yeah, and it's just like a huge difference. And then the other part of that is like trying to like do that, incorporate that into the instrument. I've been playing like piano more, which I never really did, but the last like year or two I have, and like so I've been trying to do just like some basic piano warm-ups. But I've been recently doing like warm-ups at like 20 BPM, and like you know, and like really getting into a groove of that slow tempo, you know, like is like, I think really centering, if you can be patient enough and focused enough to do it, and like work, and then maybe like play through a piece like that, or, you know, work through some exercises, or, you know, do some, you know, arpeggios or something. But I think like that's, yeah, part of it. And I'm on a constant quest for like well-being, I think, you know, like honestly, because I do that. I took some classes recently on Alexander technique, which were extremely helpful, and you know, which is just more embodiment and like expansion and like letting go of tension and finding, you know, like that was really helpful for me in terms of like realizing that there's no we talk about like optimum technique, but then like that's not one thing, you know. And I know that anyway. Like, I mean, I've like over the years, it's like, yeah, put your thumb here. Oh, but what if I'm playing Jimi Hendrix? I gotta put my thumb here, you know. And it's like I don't know. Are we doing video? Is this only audio? Can you see me?
This is video, yeah.
Is it okay? Because like, you know, like if I'm hooking my thumb, then it's like, you know, but that's like a big no-no. But it's like, well, good luck. You're not gonna play any like, you know, Elizabeth Cotton tunes like that, you know, like, and. But I mean, you know, or just certain voicings like in a jazz tune. So I think, so that's been, but like, anyway, that's coming out of Alexander technique thing. It's like, just like different ways of sitting, standing, and moving while practicing, you know, and meditation is like a huge component of the routine, and just trying to stay like, yeah, like healthy. I don't know. I think I'm more like able to, I think I make better music and I'm more excited about it when I'm feeling good.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you know, people teach their own, but, you know, I think you realize that at a certain point, I mean, I was definitely touring and, you know, drinking every night and all, you know, whatever, you know, like for a long time, but that becomes like unsustainable and like counterproductive, you know, when you're on the path of music, I think, of universal music, you know, like not like bandy stuff or whatever, you know, like I'm trying to get somewhere, which I'll never get there, but like I don't think I'll get there better if I'm focused and centered. So.
Yeah, I guess probably like the high point of my guitar playing was when I was doing 20 beats per minute scale type stuff, and like it's crazy how like, you know, I can play fast, but like you know, like if you don't have like the mental focus to maintain it, it doesn't matter. It's gonna sound like shit, and I definitely have benefited from that as well. Yeah, that's cool, man. I'm glad
it's
to hear
crazy
that
because you can like in between the notes, it's like then there's this thing, it's like I mean, you kind of have to learn to kind of like just chill out there, you know, which is like in the classical guitar, you know, it's like being in like a state of like, you know, dynamic relaxation, right? Which I guess is like a term that Aldous Huxley coined, but it's like this, in his book, like On Perception or something, I think, but it's what it's called, but or is it On Seeing? But anyway, it was like you're in a constant state of release. Like if you could, so in that whatever 3 seconds between each beat, right? Like there's like, what are you doing in that, you know? Like, am I like anticipating the next note, or did I like completely let go and then but also set myself up for it, you know, that like in terms of like executing, I'm ready for the next one, but now I'm also like just totally chilled out and like I'm relaxed, and now I can, and there it is, you know. And then if I can like shorten that gap into like, yeah, like micro relaxations, right? Like the fast playing where it's like, okay, but I'm still like releasing tension. Of course, like again, I think I always like the early music that I recorded was like fast or something, but I was so tense the whole time. It's so funny to talk about this shit and think about it. I was just like, you know, like just like trying to like just force it out, you know, and like just and so, and I think like that's, I don't know, like that's an element that's like comes across as like there's like this angst and like desperation and just like this trying that maybe like kind of gives it an edge or something. I guess I could still pretend that though, you know, I could still just like play like that. If the tone calls for it, just deliberately do that, you know. But
Practice looking tense while actually being relaxed.
yeah, it's all like just tense my face up.
I mean, like this idea of like practicing really slowly and sort of like training your internal clock seems very different from like, you know, this world of like electronics. And like, I'm the type of person that likes to make music with synthesizers and like on grids and stuff. But I think that overall, it sort of like allowed me to let my internal clock atrophy maybe. And so like in listening to your music, it seems like you're interested in like extended techniques and effects and exploring these possibilities, but you don't seem like a very grid and electronics guy. Like you're more effects than electronics. Do you think that's fair?
Yeah, I think that's fair. I'd love to, you know, step it up over here a little bit. I'm pretty like, yeah, primitive in a lot of ways like that, you know. That's true though. Yeah, I'm more like manipulating sounds on the effects and stuff, and like, and but I'm interested in other things. But I kind of like, it's hard to balance. There's only so many hours in the day, right? So if I'm like deep diving, like how much, what the flesh nail combination on the string is gonna like make
Yeah.
it sound like that, like, and then also being a parent and like teaching, you know, hours and hours a week, it makes it hard to kind of like dive into that. So I kind of have a more organic approach, I guess. But I'm really interested in that. I would love to you know, kind of to get there at some point, I think, because even just recording to a click and being able to like edit, you know, I've been like in Logic is like, oh, wait, of course, this is great. I can edit this shit now. Yeah, that's true.
So also with like, you know, you say there are limited hours in the day, and, you know, I feel like there's a certain type of musician who like, once they sort of get the ball rolling with their own stuff, they like stop actively like listening in an explorative way. And I'm curious how much like, you know, how much time you're able to spend listening, what type of listening, like how it looks for you, but then like, you know, versus like practicing technique and like the deep diving on timbre, or like more researchy stuff. Like how does like, how do you break your time down in terms of that stuff? Or is it just kind of, yeah, I don't know what my question is, but I think maybe it will trigger something in your mind that will be interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I listen to music, and it's kind of like, you know, to like a fault, I tend to listen to like a lot of like older recordings. You know, we could, since the question is like open-ended a little bit, like I was thinking about like, you know, you mentioned Spotify earlier, you know, and like, and I know that I get it, you know, like I understand the controversy. I understand that we need to make money, and I understand about like selling records. And then I was talking to a friend of mine about this the other day. It's like the way I use that is like so specific to like my career, which is like, you know, as an educator mainly, you know, but also, you know, and so like, you know, if I'm teaching like someone how to play Round Midnight or, you know, During That Dream, I'll make a playlist with like 15 versions of the song, you know, like that I want to hear, like, you know, Everyone's Dead, that's like on there. I understand I'm still giving money to this like company, but it's like almost, it's like academic, you know, and then there's like, as in research and like, and it's, and I don't find myself really like spending a whole lot of time listening to like my colleagues and not buying their record on there, you know what I mean? Like, and so I don't know. It's or a lot of times too, if I'm listening to something that like I already own in other formats, and I don't know. So but I understand still supporting the company by being a subscriber, but it's absolutely essential, like well, I shouldn't say that. I mean, obviously people taught guitar before that, but it's like, it's very useful for what I'm doing like, I mean, I was teaching a little girl to play like Stand By Me earlier today, and I was like, listen, let me pull it up real quick and listen to transcribe the bass line. So I just hear it one time so I can, oh yeah, this is how the bass line goes, and then it's like, I mean, that's just a convenience that like has made me a better educator. And I don't know, there could be like one for teachers or some anyway, but so I have been trying to listen to use Bandcamp more, and like listen to contemporary. I got like Sarah Davachi's new record on vinyl, and looking forward to checking that out. And I don't know. I like. I want to do more active listening. I think I wrote the word active listening down in my journal the other day because it's like, it's hard to like. I'm listening to stuff for lessons. I listen to music with my family a lot around, so and I still listen to a lot of jazz. I mean, I like to listen to a Sonny Rollins album like a lot. Like I get a lot out of enjoyment out of hearing that hearing really just people's like ideas in those contexts. It's just like, not that I even want to do that. I just like, to me with jazz, it's like I want to like freeze frame each like a moment and just like swim in that palette as like in a stasis, like I just love the color of like the harmony, and so it's really enjoy that. Earlier this year, a guitar player that I never got into before, I think you'll find this interesting, is Alan Holdsworth.
Oh, dude, yeah. He was on the list, and I was like, I'll save time and yank him, but Alan's my dude.
So, like, and it's one of those things, like, right, like where I was like I was like, the tone thing probably like made like a barrier for me to access it, and then I just started listening to it, and I was like, whoa, I just was like, like blown away, like blown back, mainly by the solos, yeah. I mean, the compositions or whatever, they're fine, but like when he's like improvising, I just felt like I was on a roller coaster, and this was like right at the start of the pandemic, and I was like taking these like walks, and I was just like with my headphones on, and I just like, and I never really like listened to him so much before, and I really was taken, like, and I love it. I love it, what he does. And then I start reading this like method that like is on, I have this Scribed account, talking about like, it's like books and like documents and like sheet music. It's called Scribd. It's like an app. And you pay like a subscription fee, and you have access to like, and they have so much sheet music. So it's one main reason I use it. So they had like this book, and it was like breaking down Alan Holdsworth's style and like how he like plays 4 notes per string, like next finger, next note. So you get these stretches, and you end up like breaking out of positions and all this stuff. So I started like doing that, and it really helped me a lot, because then like seeing the whole instrument as like a continuum, like, so this is kind of where I'm headed, I think, with certain things. It's like, being with that, because this is relatively recent, but I've been like imbibing that and like, and employing it, like just like imposing that schematic as almost like a modal instrument, like the guitar, just like standard tuning, but you're only going to hit these notes, and then you're like forming all these voicings. It's just it's a pretty cool like breakdown of his like style on there, and I started to like incorporate that just into my own playing, and it really broadened my horizons a lot, because I've like the Mick Goodrick like kind of like single string stuff, so like that's cool, like, and I mean, it's amazing, it's like incredible, like monumental, but it's kind of like that, but like just kind of like, I feel like it's just the way like the application seems a little more immediately like malleable in terms of like changing keys. Like it's almost like I think of it as like putting in like a disc or something to the guitar, but it's like you're not, but it's not like electronic, but now it's this program, and I just only hit these notes, and I can form voicings and not have to worry about what they actually are like in terms of their function, and I don't know. So that's been a recent active listening thing that I got into this year. And then even went a step further, I was like, oh, I'll start studying this stuff. And it's like, oh shit, this is like really helpful in so many ways. So that's cool that he's your guy. I'm glad that I joined that party because it's like, but my wife thinks it's hilarious though. So I was like, she's like, "What are you listening to?" It's like the most super fusion shit, like like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. Like, I think there's a certain type of guitarist that's like an alternate picking chauvinist, and I think I used to be that guy, and then I became an economy picking sort of nut, and but Alan can play this stuff, like you were talking earlier about being influenced by horn players, and like he's the type of guy that just like is like, I don't want to play guitar, I want to play saxophone, and
Right, yeah.
like there's no way that you can play it otherwise besides using that legato, but it's still exceedingly difficult, and so it's funny when people just kind of write off legato. I don't know if you've seen that.
No, I do. I know what you're talking about. Yeah, it's like, and I mean, what's up with that? I don't know. Like, I mean, but I think like, I mean, yeah, it's weird. Well, like I get it. Like, there's just more attack or something. I mean, like McLaughlin is like super picky, like, right? Mm-hmm. Just like all articulation, and like, I think like, and also like like bluegrass pickers and stuff. I think about people coming out of that like school. Like, but I probably tend more towards that, I guess. But I'm not afraid of a slur, man. I like a slur. I like a slur and a ascending slur and a descending slur, and combine the ascending and the descending slur with a slide, and why the hell not? Like, and I think also about like, yeah, like other instruments like sitar or something like the way, or trills in like classical music. Like it's like it makes a lot of sense to me. Yeah, I'm not. I'm into it. And that's notey stuff. That's like different, right? That's not necessarily the timbre deep dive at all, right? That's like scales, harmonic palette, like ideas, like kind of going like different directions harmonically, and like, and I'm all about that too, because like I like straddling harmonic palettes. I don't want to be like I maybe it's just I'm not good at it. I don't know, but like when it's like modal, we're just gonna play like that means like quite a bit to me, like in terms of like what like note selection, like because there's so it's cool, yeah, to hear someone have that much like freedom to like just change direction and like just like create these like cascades and like yeah, just peaks and valleys, and yeah, pretty cool stuff.
It's something that made me want to get into that I just haven't made the commitment to throwing money at, is like getting a MIDI guitar setup of some sort. And he has that like absurd whatever it's called, that like kind of looks absurd and silly, but the
synth guitar. A friend of mine told me a funny story about that. Like he like sold that when he was like down on his luck or something, and then my friend Andre is like he's like a prog guitar, like Andre Chumley is a prog guitar tech. He's like Chris Squire's guitar tech, like from, is that the guy's name from Yes? Oh my gosh. Anyway, but he's like worked with, but
Steve Howe?
Steve Howe. Who's Chris Squire? Oh, never mind. Anyway, but yeah. So, but anyway, he's like, he has all this like kind of fusion like prog shred guitar like stories. But he was telling me that like Alan Holdsworth sold that, and then the guys from Stone Temple Pilots were like huge Holdsworth fans, and they like bought it from this pawn shop and like gave it back to him or something. Anyway, I thought that was some esoteric gossip for you.
Well, Alan Holdsworth, rest in peace.
Yeah, totally, yeah.
Well, I'll just ask a few more questions, and then we can wrap this up. One is a practical one, and it's basically, I basically play electric guitar and nylon string guitar, but I don't really do acoustic steel string for some reason. But I noticed that you had nails, and even when I play electric guitar with nails growing out, it just destroys them. And so I'm wondering if you have any tips or any approaches or anything for the
electric. Yeah, I mean, so pre-pandemic, I started getting the acrylics done and going to the salon, and then like once there was like the shutdown, like they kind of grew out, and then I got back to my natural nails. And so it's been weird because like I feel like lately, I don't know, man. Those are great. Like they're not gonna break down. They're not gonna like you know, like you can, but then you lose a lot of tone, I think, or a lot of timbre. Like talk about timbre, variety. You lose a lot of that on the nylon, and I traded that for a couple of years when I started doing that, like for just like the consistency and like speed and power of the fake nails. But then like I lost like this kind of like I think of like Julian Bream as someone who's like pulls a lot of different color out of the guitar, and like and is a big influence in that direction. And it's like, so the natural nails are better for that. I'm trying, like, I don't know. I've been, this is an endless conversation about nails. I've been thinking about it lately though, because I feel like I've been playing a lot of steel and I haven't been doing as much damage as I normally would have. And I just wonder if like my technique has improved in this way or something, where I'm not being as hard on them. I don't know, but yeah, I don't know. Like, cause like I lately I've noticed that I'm like, okay, I'm on my natural nails, I'm playing a lot more steel, and they are grinding down for sure, like more than if I wasn't, you know, like there's definitely some loss, but then it's like, I don't know. So the fake nails are great. They're like, I really liked having them. They were really powerful. But I'm also really glad to be back. Like it took months for them to grow out. It was really awkward. They grew out like, because I couldn't go to the salon, and then I had none for a while, and that was really sad. It was like clipped wings, you know. I just could like I had no tone. I couldn't play anything. It's like I was like, this will pass. And then, but I think I don't know about that. It's tough because I'll play bass too, and it just depends on like how hard you're playing. It's a mystery, man. The nails are a constant struggle, but like I've been doing pretty good lately, and I don't know why that is. I think I'm trying to figure it out. I'll let you know if I do.
Word, thanks. With the acrylic ones, do you get any sort of like pushback from your wife on them just like looking absurd? Because I know that when I was doing classical more seriously, like everybody just kind of was like, "What's your deal?"
Oh yeah. No, the only pushback from her would be like, because like they don't scratch, like if you were scratching your back or whatever, the acrylics kind of just don't feel like anything. There's no,
Interesting.
They're just smooth. It's like some smooth thing, but like real nails have like have more of a, I guess, a bite to them. So they're better for the scratching.
Interesting.
Yeah. No, I always kind of I liked when I would first get them done and I'd go to like a cafe or something, and like the cashier would compliment my nails, you know. I was like, oh, thanks. Yeah. Guitarist, but thank you. Like, I love your nails.
Cool. So I'm realizing I forgot a question I had back about autodidact, and that's basically, you said in the video version of it that you don't usually let yourself do this. Like you don't usually, like you're usually pretty regulated about what you allow yourself to release. And I was wondering if you could expand on that and like what are your criteria is.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm just selective about, especially particularly about like freely improvised stuff. You know, like I'm not ready to just like release every free improv recording I make. You know, I mean, I can put out like 365 albums a year. You know, like I mean, it's not like I don't feel like that's all really worth hearing. You know, like or that I did. That what I have to say is that important. So I mean, I kind of so that was like a situation where I was like, you know, kind of forcing myself into that context. Like, okay, well, here's a concept that I'm working within, and I'm going to do it like this in one take, and so, you know, warts and all, and you know, I work really well with others, I feel like, and when I have people to bounce off of, I think that's when that's, you know, that tends to be more successful for me, I feel like, as an improviser, as a free improviser, and so yeah, like the records I did with Tetsuya Nakatani, for example, I feel really great about. I think that there's like action reaction, there's inspiration there, and I feel like they can carry it, and they can, there's it. We can kind of trade back and forth, and so yeah, I just have a hard time just like I'm gonna freely improvise something, and this is worth listening to, and here's a recording of it. So, and this was also the reason too that when I turned into like doing folk music, like it gave me like it gave a shape to like my free improv tendencies, I think, to where I actually did like what I was doing, because there were these like melodic touch points and like a harmonic outline, simple chord progression, but like still like there were these places to come back to, and I'm just a sucker for form, and like and melody still. I know it's like it ain't about the notes anymore, but I think it is still, and also other things, but I think that yeah, so that was kind of just a moment of like, okay, this is going to be like totally open, and it is what it is.
I think I tend to be not selective enough, and so I'm trying to like extract some sort of piece of wisdom from you here that I can apply. But I'm also wondering, do you ever feel like your music ages well? Like, does something like, do you ever like come back to an old recording that you haven't released and you're like, oh, this is like better than anything I'm doing now?
Oh, like unreleased stuff. Because released stuff, yeah. But no, kind of joking, but like, let's see. Uh, it's weird. Like a lot of times, man. Yeah, I mean, I have done that. Like, I feel like I put out this tape called "The Child Asleep in the Rain," which was like stuff that accumulated on my hard drive, sort of over like 4 years without really me keeping track. And I was like, oh, this is like an album, okay, But there was other stuff that didn't make it on there, like, but it was kind of like I just kind of forgot about these things, or they just accumulated. And so yeah, but then I also do come back and I'm just kind of like, no. That's usually probably what I do when I listen back. I hear like that's why, I mean, maybe that's like part of the thing. Like I don't know. I just try to be somewhat selective about what I'm going to let go into the wild.
Mm-hmm.
I hear people use that term a lot lately, in the wild, about stuff in the world. But yeah. So sometimes I do. Yeah. I mean, probably a lot of like lo-fi recordings too that couldn't be released. I'm like, damn. Like I listened to the session I did with cellist Isabel Castelvi that we did like in February of this year, and I listened to it in like July, and I hadn't heard it maybe and I was like, felt like, wow, this was just like dynamite. What a cool night. But yeah, a lot of stuff, because I've recorded like hours and hours and hours and hours of music with like Brian, the drummer from Luch Tisas, for the last 10 years. And, and we have an unreleased album, and like tons of material that could be released that we recorded, and like, but then like tons and tons of stuff that's just like, just doesn't really gel, doesn't feel right, just kind of trying to make something happen. And, it has its moments, but like overall, it's like, I don't want to get into like editing that like a whole lot. Maybe I should though. I don't know. Yeah. So sometimes I do that.
Cool. Well, the last question I'll ask you is kind of a silly pseudo question from one cool guy guitarist to another. Should I get a 7-string?
Yeah.
Do you own a 7-string?
I don't own one, no, but I mean, if you want one, you should get one.
But I mean, like,
are we talking like a low B? Is that what we're talking about? Or what are we talking
something
about?
like that. I'm looking at these like Strandberg guitars, like the headstockless ones. I mean, I saw what's his face, like Elliot Sharp and Henry Kaiser and this other dude sort of using them, and they look really interesting. But I just like, I feel like I intellectually want one, but like the cool guy guitarist to me is just like, nah, a six string forever. Like, don't be that guy.
Right. Okay, well, I'm gonna try and relate to that. So I
I'm
like.
secretly wanting you to say no, but
Yeah. I mean, okay, no, don't do it. Well, like I got this like relic Telecaster recently that I'm into, and it sounds good and it looks real cool and like whatever. But it's like I've also recently, like with the Alan Holdsworth turn in my in my thinking, I've become kind of interested in having like a really balanced like 2-octave guitar neck, which I don't have, like just for pure shred purposes. And I've just never like pursued that path or goal. Was like speed wasn't my like end game. And now that I've been working on it more, I've been using like I've been going through like I like Miles Okazaki's book. I think is really cool. Guitar Fundamentals, and I've done like his like paradiddles and like all this shit. And I've been like working on mechanics a lot more, and I realized like, man, that is a time like intensive thing to like pull that stuff up. Oh my gosh. But anyway, so I kind of like have been pushing a little bit more towards that. And so then I started, my thinking started changing about like, I want a really balanced, like, which would probably, like Ibanez or something, just something that's like, that I wouldn't have ever wanted before, to like be able to deal with like the harmonic continuum, like in a way, like just inspired by, the Holdsworth thing, I think probably. But, so I think that if your heart is saying, I want this 7-string guitar, then you should do it because, like it's okay. Like I put this on Facebook like several months ago or something. I was like, should I get more into finger tapping? And I got like a whole like array of, because I'm not much of a finger tapper, I tend finger style picking. Yeah. But I started like writing a couple things and figure I can do it, just need to practice. I know how to practice. And like people were like, hell yeah, man, any tool in your toolbox? No, that'd be great. You'd be so good at it. Or, oh yeah, I would love to hear what you do. And then people were like, I will never talk to you again if you do that, like I got, so it's hard to like kind of take someone else's, opinion about what you should do like that. I kind of, I'm more and more, I'm just giving less and less of a shit about anything like anything cool. But yeah, so there you go. That's my non-answer.
Seems like tapping is kind of like big these days in like the contemporary guitar scene that I really can't get behind for some reason. Like just like I shouldn't name names, but there's like a certain type of young guitarist that has all the gear and for some reason is really into finger tapping. I'm like, I like this when Don Caballero did it. I liked it when Eddie Van Halen did it, but I won't stand for it beyond that.
Yeah, it's interesting. I get exposed to things sometimes from students where I'm like, this is what the kids are into. Okay, well, and like some like techie stuff, and I was like, okay. I mean, I have this like weird like perspective. Do you teach as well?
No, I'd like to get back into it though. I'm just slowly trying to get out of the coffee game back into the music game. So students, hit me up if you want lessons.
Okay.
And don't want to hit up Shane Parish.
Yeah, but one thing that teaching has done is like kind of soften my edge about like just like panning things or whatever, that where I would just be like, that sucks, like, because I deal with like, I mean, I'll teach anyone whatever they want to learn if they have some direction, because it's all, it's all one, brother. It's all coming from, it's all this, but without being ironic, it is actually all the same kind of continuum. It's all the same thing, and so any interest in music is positive and good. And like I've kind of come to this place too where I like, if I see someone doing something, I'm like, that like maybe would get some eye rolls, or, you know, I tend to be like, well, I'd be proud of my student if they were doing that. You know, or like or if my student was into it, I'd be like happy that they're into anything, you know. So that's, you know, so it's kind of made me like way more just generous and like kind of open to, you know, not totally condemning things like I might have when I was younger. I might still keep certain opinions to myself about like the Grateful Dead or Fish, or, you know, like you know, I don't want to like alienate my like a whole demographic of like, you know, my audience or whatever too, by like just, why can't I enjoy this music that so many people love? I don't know. What is wrong with me? I want to like it. I just can't get into it. So that's my thing. Then is what I say is that if I can't, something I don't like, I can't access it. That's my diplomatic way of saying like, I've yet to be able to access it, you know, I think. But anyway, maybe I've
Do you
said
see
too
yourself
much.
ever accessing a 7-string guitar?
If there was one here, I'd play it for sure. Are we talking a low B? Is that what's happening?
Yeah, it would be a low B. Yeah. I mean, what other options would there
that'd
be?
be dope. I mean, a low B. Why not, man? Like, I'm like tuning down the C, you know? So it's like, you know, I was teaching that bass line today to my friend's daughter from Stand By Me, you know? And it's like, it goes down to that low D. And I was like, we're going to go to string 4, because she's kind of a beginner. So I didn't want to be like, we're going to go in the drop D. I'm going to show you this thing all over again so we can hit this note, you know? And it was like, you know, but if you can get down to a B, yeah. You can, I mean, are you going to play like Korn or something on it? I mean,
No, that's the thing. Like, I mean, so I got the idea, I think, from like Henry Kaiser did this duo with this dude. I forget his name. It starts with an A.
Alvaro.
Yeah. I think
he's amazing. Yeah.
They're playing some really interesting stuff, and like I was just like, yeah, like why would you not take the extra note? But I just imagine like going to some sort of more trad gig and like them being like, oh, who is this?
Don't bring it to that. Don't bring it to that gig. Don't bring it to that gig. Yeah, that would be just don't bring it to that gig. Yeah, you gotta like save it for your for the shred gig.
Yeah, I'd be doing more like ethereal, weird, mathy stuff probably.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Do it, man. I mean, someone, yeah, I think that would be cool. I think, man, what is Alvaro's last name? Dominic. Anyway, he's super nice and really great player. I'm excited to hear your 7-string guitar stuff when you do it.
I'll let you know when I get one.
Yeah.
Cool, man.
Okay.
Well, yeah, thanks for talking to me. This has been really enjoyable, and I'm always really appreciative of your positivity and creativity that you put out there. So
thank you. Thanks so much. I really appreciate it. Yeah, I had fun. Thanks for the chat.
Yeah, my pleasure.
And I'll see you around. Thank you.
Yeah. See you, my friend. Bye.